You have people confidently stating, and sometimes it's not even people. A lot of these videos are actually AI. And they'll say the Ethiopian Bible is the oldest or the most
Mm.
complete. And they'll mention a lot of times this number 81, or sometimes even more. Sometimes it's 88. 81 books. And you've got all these memes, and they'll highlight the additional text in the Ethiopian canon, especially Enoch. And come to find out, most people don't even know what Enoch is, and they'll do this kind of bolster the oldest claim. Now, Sunday Vibes, aka Terry Thompson, have you seen any of this stuff about the Ethiopian Bible in
Oh
this
yeah,
canon? What have you
absolutely.
seen?
Yeah, I mean, I sent you a text of a screenshot this week. I was watching like a canon video on YouTube, and in the comments, someone was basically saying, the only Bible that you should read is the Ethiopian Bible. Basically, um, a lot of comments like that kind of allude to the fact that the Ethiopian Bible has so many books in it, has more books than our canon, and therefore they assume that we took books out of our canon, and that the Ethiopian Bible, because it has 81 or 88 books in it, that it's the purest form of the Bible. And so, yeah, I've seen over the years all these claims that you're talking about, that the Ethiopian Bible is the oldest. Um, yeah, it's crazy.
So where were you when you saw this particular comment? What forum was that on?
On YouTube, most of them is YouTube, but I have seen stuff on Instagram as well. Of course, there's TikTok. I mean, it's social media basically gives everybody a platform to feel as though that they're a scholar and everything. And of course, people just kind of eat that stuff up. Yeah, there
So
we
there's
go. The
there's an
Ethiopian
example.
Bible.
The Ethiopian Bible is the only unedited version that people should be reading. I mean, that's quite a claim. Imagine people really thinking all the other Bibles have been edited. And in the point, it
Mm.
depends how you define editing, but it seems like the way it's being used here is edited in a nefarious or problematic kind of way. That seems to be the idea when we talk about editing in this
Consider.
context. Because the idea seems to be here, you shouldn't be reading the other Bibles. You should only read this one. It's pure, it's unadulterated, it's unedited. Abu, unmute yourself and let's see if we
Yes.
can hear you.
Yes, sir. How about
Much
now? I have
better.
a
Yeah,
little. Oh,
Much
yeah,
better.
better.
Okay, good.
sounding a lot better now. And
I was going to
so,
say regarding the editing, I'd be curious which edits, alleged edits, the person finds most concerning, because I think they'd be surprised that not only is there a diversity of manuscripts for the Ethiopian text, but also the Ethiopian Bible has just about everything that popular polemics might consider problematic in mainstream Western Bibles. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
what do you mean it has everything they might find problematic in mainstream Western Bibles in the Ethiopian canon? What do you mean by that?
Well, what I meant was, different people have different concerns, and there's different mythologies out there as to what shouldn't be in Western Bibles. Like, for example, you have. I'm not saying the person whose screen name message you just put up is like this, but just for other hypothetical examples, there might be a fan of Billy Carson who believes that the Ethiopian Bible might not have the resurrection in it, or something like that, or the divinity of
Right.
Christ, or something like that. Like everything we have in Western Bibles that certain polemicists would find problematic are also in the Ethiopian Bible. I'd be hard pressed to think of something that's not there. But
Yeah, I have seen Billy Carson talk about the Ethiopian Bible, as he calls it. So, is it possible, Abu, to correct these misconceptions without disrespecting anyone? Is it possible? Can we do it?
yes, of course, the most polite way I would put it is that I would be interested in the precise edits that a person is, because different people find different edits or different texts. Concerning. So I would be interested when I'm talking with any individual who feels that the Ethiopian Bible is more pristine, it lacks whatever problems are in alleged to be within Western Bibles. My question would be, well, what do you find most concerning? And that's where the conversation could start there.
Right, exactly. Now, when people talk about the Ethiopian Bible being the oldest, they usually, I would say, frankly, do not know what they are talking about. And again, this is not intended to be disrespectful to the Ethiopian church. This is just trying to correct the ignorance of some people's claims. So let me explain the grain of truth in this viral claim. So you have something called the, and Abu, maybe you can correct any pronunciation that's needed here. Garima. Garima, is that right?
I say Garima. I mean, no, I wouldn't. I might be getting it wrong as well, but yeah, I say Garima.
Okay. So you got the Abu Garima Monastery, and this is established, it's said, by a man named Abu Garima. This is supposed to be one of the 9 saints who were, my understanding, is the Syrian missionaries who introduced a more wide, or helped Ethiopians adopt more widespread Christianity. This is about in the 6th century. Not saying there was no Christianity there before. Obviously, you have examples as far as being, really brought in a widespread format. You got these 9 saints, and at this monastery, it's in northern Ethiopia, by the way. It's been known for a long time that there are ancient illuminated gospel books. Now, we're going to explain what we mean by that. They are now known as Garima 1, Garima 2, and Garima 3. They are written in a liturgical language, an ancient language called Ge'ez, which Abu actually is able to read and speak. Now, he's going to say, I don't do it that well or something like that. But look, guys, it's rare to meet even an Ethiopian who has familiarity with Ge'ez, from what I've known. And originally, these were dated between the 8th and 13th centuries, but there's a conference in Oxford in 2013 in November. And they discussed these gospels, these illuminated gospels, and don't worry, we're going to define it. And there came news at this conference, and it was that a fragment of Garima 3, one of these illuminated gospels, had been radiocarbon dated to about 330 at the earliest, or 650 at the latest, which would make it the oldest surviving illuminated gospel book in the world. That's the nugget of truth. Now, Abu, let's explain what this all means, and I'm going to show a picture, a copy of an illuminated gospel, why we discuss this. So, Abu, clarify some of what I said to the audience who is listening.
Well, so the Garima Gospels are, as per their name, just the Gospels. They're not a complete Bible, as, like, say, the Sinaiticus would be, or something like that, or Vaticanus. And as you said, it's the oldest illuminated manuscript. It's a manuscript that has artwork in it, is my understanding. You know, this very beautiful, colorful representations of the gospel writers and stuff like that appear therein. But that's what. But it's so, I think somehow in people's minds, the statement "the oldest illuminated manuscript" transitioned to the oldest Bible. But it's really just a compilation of the 4 Gospels. It's actually 2 different texts that compile together the 4 Gospels, not no other biblical texts. And then it has this beautiful artwork at certain points along the way.
Okay,
So hence
so
illuminated.
there's an example. Here's Mark from Garima 2. This is a portrayal of Mark, and that's from Garima 2. So if people are talking about the Ethiopian Bible being the oldest Bible in the world, if they knew what they were talking about, they could say this: the oldest illuminated gospels in the world are from or found in Ethiopia. Not the oldest complete Bible, not the oldest Bible, not the oldest copy of the Gospels. The oldest illuminated Gospels. Now, that's still significant. That was exciting news when more up-to-date radiocarbon analysis brought back that information. That was exciting news. But like a lot of things, it's become twisted on the internet to now make you think if you're not reading it, you're not doing it right because you don't have the right version. But these are the illuminated gospels, and they're in Ge'ez. Abu, these are translations.
Mm-hmm. Primarily
Explain that.
of Greek
How do we
texts.
know these are translations?
Well, they're there are points where it agrees with the Greek text, where it reflects the Greek text. That in some cases, in the terms of names, it even reflects the inflections in the Greek. But I would say that there's also cases where they seem to agree with the Syriac instead. So it is interesting. But yeah, the Ge'ez texts are clearly translations of the Greek text, and maybe in certain cases, certain Syriac texts, and therefore it would
And
not
that's
be
an
the oldest.
important point because even though we recognize a certain level of independence from larger ecclesiastical structures in the world, as far as maybe in the overbearing way that some of us might associate with certain other institutions, Ethiopia, the church there, still has been heavily influenced by other Christians of other ethnicities and languages, specifically the Egyptians and the Syrians and the Greeks. They're clearly influenced by other sectors of Christianity, which is
Yes, well,
good.
that's what I.
Good.
Yes, and actually, that's relevant to the polemics. I think some people imagine a complete disconnect from the West, and that's certainly not the case with the Ethiopian Church or the Ethiopian Bible, or the the Ge'ez text of the Ethiopian Bible. It clearly has a connection to the Greek. There's influence on Greek. There's Greek loan words within the text. So yeah, and again, I'm not. I think some people polemicize against. The idea of the Greek world, the Greek influence on Christianity, the Greek beginnings of Christianity. But I don't think these ancient Semites who produced the Ge'ez Bible had that sort of what we might call Hellenophobia, and that's where the value is.
Now, Terry, as the newbie to the conversation, that's why we have you on. What questions would you want to ask Abu this first segment relating to these illuminated gospels and these claims surrounding them? Anything you want to get in?
Well, I mean, the obvious one is I'm trying to figure out how did we go from the Ethiopian Bible or Illuminated Gospels is the oldest to it's just the oldest, period. Like, when did that start circulate? Yeah. Well, like, when did that become popular? Was it people like Billy Carson kind of made those statements popular?
Yeah, Boo, what do you think the genesis of all this is? I would say in the past year is when I've seen it uptick. I've always heard little, not always, but for a few years now, I've heard little drips and drops. But the past year, especially the past 6 months, I've seen a massive uptick and all these people talking about this. It's sort of like the latest thing. And
Mm.
this fascination with the idea of lost books has always existed. The internet has propagated it. History Channel loves this kind of stuff. And this time it's just a tiny little bit of truth, and then it gets exploited. Abu, do you remember when you first heard this, and what did you think about it right away when you heard it, being someone who actually tweets regularly about Ge'ez variants?
I would say, I mean, it sort of was on the periphery for years. I think it really exploded when Billy Carson started promoting it, but
Mm-hmm.
he did not originate it. Billy Carson is a guy who just grabs other people's material. I'm not trying to disrespect him. Forgive me if that sounded disrespectful, but he sort of popularizes other people's material, and I think he helped this along. That's for sure. But it was in the ether before he did so. But in the last year or so, I noticed he posted about it, and then it seemed to spread more quickly. He's
Let's play a video that includes these kinds of claims.
Ethiopian Bible, A Tale of Ancient Faith. The Ethiopian Bible, also known as the Ethiopic Bible or Ge'ez Bible, is one of the oldest and most complete Bibles in existence. Unlike the standard 66-book canon followed by most modern Christian denominations, the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church's Bible contains an astonishing 81 books. These texts include familiar works like Genesis, Psalms, and the Gospels, but they also hold treasures of ancient Christianity that have been removed or lost in many modern versions.
Ooh, that sounds foreboding. That's kind of a less melodramatic video as far as the types of videos I've been seeing since I've been looking at this. Abu, you want to comment on that particular video? Were you able to hear it?
Yeah, I don't have a comment just yet, but we'll go along with it. I imagine we're going to get into the canon fairly soon, though. Yeah.
Yeah, next segment. Sunday Vibes, aka Mr. Terry. What about you? Anything stand out to you in that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it. like watching this, and I've seen like a lot of videos like this, it really reminds me of like the New World Translation with the Jehovah's Witness, where they claim, the Protestants, they took out the, God's name all throughout the Bible, and we have the sacred or purest form. And I don't know, I think a lot of people just kind of drift towards that ideal of wanting to have the oldest and wanting to have the purest form of God's word, even if it's complete misinformation.
Yeah, everyone's afraid they're missing out on something, and
Missing
honestly,
out. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if people are reading the Bibles they do have, though. I'm just saying.
That's true.
Now you know that it's not the oldest, but you do understand what is the oldest, those illuminated Gospels, which is still pretty cool. They actually are quite beautiful if you look at them. So it's no shade on that. It's just we got to get our facts right here. So it is the oldest illuminated copies that are possessed anywhere, which is quite fascinating, especially considering how Muslims tore up those areas, and that area was actually surrounded by Muslims for a long time. And so for a long time, people didn't really know about these. It looks like they never left the area. And now they are known, and it was really awesome. But let's make sure we get the truth about it.
Make your city, God city, God city, God city, God city, God city. Make your city, God city, God city.